Hello and welcome to the story as to how I was scammed when buying a used car. Now, something I should explain is I bought hundreds of used cars over my lifetime, and this was something I'd never come across before, a really savvy scam that would be so easy for anyone to fall into. So although it's an interesting story, there's also a little lesson in this for all of us as well. Now the story begins with me looking for a Ford Focus ST. I had one of these when I was younger, I fancied the trip down memory lane, and I also figured it would be a good car to make a couple videos with on the channel. Now it's not uncommon that I'll buy a car, keep it a number of months, make those videos, enjoy it, and then sell it on. So I'm searching in all the usual places that one does when you're looking for a less than perfect example. I'm scouring eBay, Gumtree and the likes, and the perfect one pops up. First of all, it was fairly local, about 15 minutes away, and secondly, it was modified to up the power as well. Now for those of you who know the Mark II Focus ST platform, you know it's a platform that responds super well to modifications. But given that I'm buying on a budget, I don't necessarily want to buy the car, then a whole load of new parts to add to the car, because that's just going to drive everything up in expenditure. So off I go to view said Focus ST. I arrive, the car is perfectly imperfect, let's say. A little bit of rust around the wheel arches, a little bit rough around the edges, as I said, a few stone chips. The seller seems a genuine enough, nice guy. He throws me the keys, tells me to take it a test drive and have some fun, which I done. Car drove pretty good. I mean, it is a 15, 16-year-old Ford, so I mean, how much can you expect? It was a little bit unwieldy. Again, if you know the Focus ST and its many foibles, one of them is the drive shafts. When they start to go, or if they have gone and been replaced with inferior parts, the steering can vibrate a bit badly under acceleration. It was doing that a bit, okay. So I return from that test drive, hands are shook, deals are done, the money is transferred, and then all we need to do is the paperwork. So the seller's got the V5 document, that's the document here in the UK that you fill out the new owner's information on, send it off to the DVLA, and then they send the new keeper a new version of it. Now, something I should explain here is it's maybe not the most traditional way of buying a car, but sometimes I'll buy these cars, I'll bring them home, I'll put them in the driveway and they'll sit there for, could be a number of weeks, could be a month, could be a little bit longer. Just depends if I've got another car that I'm finishing up filming with and going to be selling before moving on to that new one. And that was exactly the case here. I got the car, put it in my driveway and waited on the new V5 to come through. Ready for the first red flag? That V5 didn't come through. So I call up DVLA, explain the circumstances, they ask if I've got the new keeper slip, which I do, I give them the information from it, and they say, ah, hang on, what you've got there is not the current V5 for that car. Okay, bit of a red flag there, but admittedly, I didn't really think that much about it. The DVLA give you a new form, fill out your information on that, pay, I think it was a £20 charge, and they send you a new V5 regardless. After all, it must happen all the time that sellers just don't post off the V5 or lose them. I just figured that might have been the case here. So with the V5 issues behind us, I set on filming with the car. I actually made a couple videos with the car. The car featured on the channel several times, and honestly, it was a really good car. It never went wrong on me, and I had a bunch of fun with it. Fast forward about 7 or 8 months, which is the time that I had it in my ownership, and a friend actually asked to buy it from me. So at that stage, I knew it was a good car, I could kind of vouch for it, so I said, okay, give me what I paid for it, which they done, and it went off into their ownership. So I believe they kept the car for about 3 or 4 months. I don't know, my timeline might be a little bit hazy, don't quote me on that if said friend is watching. But at the end of their ownership, they basically took it to one of these car supermarkets and tried to trade it in against a new car. At which point, they rejected it as a trade-in because it had, are you ready for this? Outstanding finance on it. So cue a rather confused friend calling me and asking, Grant, did you take out finance on that 15, 16-year-old Ford Focus that you sold me and didn't tell me about it? Well, of course I didn't. This is where things start to go really wrong, because now I'm thinking back to when I bought the car, and as a matter of principle, I would never ever have bought a car without doing a proper HPI check on it, which checks for things like outstanding finance. And I look back, And sure enough, I didn't misread it. The car had no finance on it when I went and bought it. It was something that I'd done before I even went and seen the car. A given. So obviously I sent that HPI report off to my friend just to vouch for it being clear when I bought it, and I certainly didn't take any finance out against the car. But still, it didn't help the quandary that they were now in, having this car with outstanding finance that they were not able to sell. So are you starting to see what's happening here? We've got this old V5 document, we've got this mystery finance deal that's come out of thin air. So what had in fact happened is I'd HPI'd the car before I went and seen it. As I say, it was clear. I've gone, I've bought the car, and I've been given the old V5 document. Now when I've told this story previously, people have said, well, how did he manage that one? You can't get a duplicate V5 document like that. Well, what I think had happened is the car was obviously on its original plate in his ownership, so he had a V5 for that. He put his private plate onto the car, which meant a new V5 document being issued for the private plate, and then when he's taken that off, it's went back to its original plate and they've issued a new V5 document once again. Now what I was given was that original V5 document, so yeah, all the details matched, even the date that he said he bought it matched as well, but it was the old V5. He had retained the new one in order to refinance the car after it went into my ownership. Yeah. Now, as you may expect, the sort of company who is ready to finance a £3,000 or £4,000 old rusted Focus ST, 16, 17-year-old car, is not exactly the most upstanding bank. It was the equivalent of a loan shark in car terms, so getting any sort of amicable answer from these guys, I wasn't holding out hope. But still, my friend done what they had to do, and they got in touch with the company to explain the circumstances, and it just keeps getting better and better. So that company told my friend that basically since the car had been sold whilst it was under their ownership because they provided the finance for it and held the V5 document, the contract had been breached and they would be coming to collect their car. Oh jeez. So this is where the legalities of the situation start to come into it, and what we found was it actually differs a fair bit depending on if you're based in England or Scotland. Now the company who had provided the loan shark finance on this car were based down in England. Obviously we're in Scotland. I should clarify my friend was also resident in Scotland. And we found that the rules differed a little bit when it comes to debt like this and assets. So if you're in England, apparently that company have every right to come and repossess that car. In Scotland, it's a little bit different. I think this goes across the board, not just with car finance, but all sorts of things. If you know more than me, you can drop a comment below, maybe tell me if you've been in this circumstance yourself. But effectively, they are not allowed to come and take the car off of your driveway. Now the key term, and really the turning point that we got advice on, was a good title. That's the term that applies certainly in Scotland, possibly in England as well. Now a good title basically refers to when you've bought a car from a bit of a dodgy seller who's got outstanding finance on it. If they don't tell you about the finance, it's not written anywhere, it's not in any contract, there's no verbal communication of any outstanding finance on that car, then you're buying it in a good title. In other words, you're buying it in good faith that that car has no finance on it. Now thankfully, when I went and bought the car, I had a friend with me who could vouch for that as well. There was certainly no comment of outstanding finance. And honestly, you don't really expect it on a car that old either, especially when the HPI check's clear. Anyway. Now it did take a bit of back and forth, but thankfully, due to that good title, we were able to get that outstanding finance removed from the car's report. So, if you happen to have bought this car since then, I know it's still floating about somewhere, you don't need to worry about this. It's gone, and in that car's history, and that original debt, quite rightly so, remains with that original seller who took the deal out after selling the car to me. So there you have it, not a good situation to be in, but thankfully if you've watched this video and you're now aware of that good title get out clause, maybe it's something you can put to use as well. Thank you so much for watching this video. If you have enjoyed it, hit the like button, consider hitting the subscribe button, turning on the bell notification so you don't miss any future uploads. We'll see you next time.